What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So yesterday I talked about the $200 raise for Social Security, and I have a lot of people who are in the comments asking me questions. By the way, at the end of this video and all of my videos, I'm going to start putting a number at the very end. If you post that number in the comments, I'll make sure to reply to those comments. So that's going to be a regular thing. I've started to do it in certain videos, but I want you guys to watch a video all the way through to the end. And the way that I know that you've watched the video all the way to the end, you'll see that little number and you put that number in the comments, and that will let me know that you guys have watched the video. And so what I want to do in this video is I want to give you the full details when it comes to this $200 raise, how this would actually work. And then we're going to talk about the process from this point on. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. Okay, so let's go ahead. I just want to get right to this. I did have some people ask me questions about this $200 raise for Social Security, and so I wanted to answer some of those questions. And so first off, we're going to take a look at the cap. That's what Bernie Sanders was talking about. And so let's go ahead and move to our desktop here, and we're going to talk a little bit about this cap. So of course I did an illustration because I like doing illustrations, and it's just easier for me to explain things through an illustration. And so the first thing that we need to talk about is the FICA tax. What is a FICA tax and how is it implemented? So if we were to put $1 here up to $160,200, all that money is collected in what they call a FICA tax. Now, the reason for the FICA tax is to help Social Security beneficiaries. Okay, so basically what it does is this money comes from you when you're working, you're paying 6.2%. So you pay that 6.2%, and then your employer also pays 6.2%. And so all of this money goes to the Social Security Administration. So that's how it works when it comes to the FICA tax. And so what we are currently looking at is anything over $160,200, you're no longer paying into the payroll tax. Okay, so what that means is that the first $160,200, that the FICA tax is being collected for that amount of money. But anything over that, you're not paying anymore. So let's say you made $5 million. If you made $5 million, you're only paying the $160,200. That's what FICA, you're paying that into the FICA tax, and that's all. Anything over that, you can make $5 million, you can make $5 billion, you're still not paying any more. So that is where Bernie Sanders wants to tax that a little bit more. And so this is what he wants to do, because if you look at it right here, you're making $5 million, you're making $5 billion, you're still paying anything over $160,200, you're not paying any FICA tax. So the Social Security Administration is not collecting any money on anything over $160,200. Okay, so what Bernie Sanders wants to do is he wants to say $250,000 or more. So there would still be a grace. So you would still have this gap. So between $160,200 and $250,000, you still would not pay into the FICA tax. Okay, and the main reason for this is he doesn't want to just go from 160,000 all the way up. So now everyone is paying. He still wants to have that gap for, I guess you can consider the middle class. Depends on where you live, I guess, in the country. Some people making 170,000, they're pretty much middle class. In California, I can tell you that, especially in Northern California, things are very expensive. And so you would still be considered middle class at 170,000. And so in Bernie Sanders' plan, 250,000 or more, you're going to be paying into the FICA tax. So if you make $5 million, you're going to be paying into the FICA tax. Okay. And so this money would get collected, just like we showed in the earlier diagram. It gets collected and it goes to the Social Security Administration. That means the Social Security Administration would be able to collect more money, which would then help when it comes to the solvency issue, as well as it would help when it comes to a $200 raise or the $2,400 increase to Social Security. So that is what Bernie Sanders wants to do. That is his plan. Now, when it comes to President Biden, he hasn't really weighed in on this too much because President Biden had a pledge. And he made this pledge when he ran for president. And his pledge was that any family making less than $400,000 would not be taxed anymore. Okay, so that's basically what he said. Now, he did say family. This would be individual that we're talking, $160,200. That's an individual. But in this situation, he's talking about families. So in a situation like this, he would go against that pledge if they were to implement something like this, where if you're making $250,000 or more, let's say you make $250,000 or more, and your spouse doesn't make, let's say your spouse makes $50,000, you make $250,000, that would put you at $300,000. However, you would still get taxed, and so it would be under that $400,000. And you would still be taxed at a higher rate. At least if President Biden wanted to keep that pledge, he would be apprehensive about moving on something like this. Now, one way around this is by changing the $250,000 to $400,000. If you move that up to $400,000, now we're looking at a situation where I think President Biden would be more comfortable with that. Okay, so we'd be looking at a situation $400,000 or more. The FICA tax would be collected and go to the Social Security Administration. Now, it would be less money, obviously, less money collected by the Social Security Administration because you're going to have between $250,000 to $400,000. Those people still would not have to pay into the FICA tax, and so Social Security would be collecting a little bit less. But that's what we're looking at right now. So that's pretty much the outlining everything that's going on when it comes to how they would tax this and why they would go about it this way. Now, I did have people ask me, why didn't he introduce this before the midterms? Well, he did introduce it before the midterms, and I did videos about that, and I talked about it. But he has to introduce it again because some people are asking me, well, if he introduced it already, why is he introducing it again? That was another question. He has to introduce it into the new Congress. We're in the new Congress now. And so that's why he's introducing it again, and we're going to have to see if it goes anywhere. Now, the roadblocks. The House is going to be a roadblock. They are probably automatically going to not want to move forward with this. But just because the House doesn't want to move forward with this doesn't mean that it's dead in the water, because I've said this all along. When it comes to if you're bringing something to the floor in the Senate, if they can bring this to the floor and they can actually vote on it and get it approved, if you can get 10 Republicans to come on board, or at least 9 Republicans to come on board, they can move forward, pass it through the Senate, send it to the House, and that's when the pressure would really start to heat up. And that's when I would be telling you guys, you need to contact your representative in your district and let him know you want this Social Security increase. And that's when the House would have to start looking at this, and Republicans would have to start looking at it and say, okay, we have a lot of constituents that are saying we want this $200 raise for Social Security. So we're going to at least need to address it. If we don't want to vote on this one, we might need to make some alterations and then vote on something, but something needs to happen. That's how you put pressure on these politicians. Right now, it's still early in the stages, and it basically at this point will have to go to committee. They'll look at it. They're going to have to actually see if it works. This is right now, it's just in the talking stages. So Bernie Sanders is saying this is what he wants to do. They have to see. The CBO is going to have to come down and score it and see, does this actually work? Will it provide money for solvency? Will it provide money for a $200 raise per month? And so that's what they're going to be doing in the Senate to try to figure this out. Now, let's hope that Leader Schumer brings this to the floor. If he brings it to the floor and they vote on it, we'll find out how these politicians really feel about it. Even if it fails, you're still going to know what politicians are for an expansion of Social Security and what politicians are against it. And that will at least give you something. That will at least give you some information to move on. Also, if this gets to the point where they want to bring it to the floor, I'm going to let you guys know as well. So make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell notification, because I'll let you know so you can contact your senators in every state and say, look, we want this. We need this. And so maybe that will put some pressure on some of these senators that might not want to go along with expanding Social Security. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. You're seeing they're already opening in the House, they're opening these different hearings and they're talking about different things. Realistically, the House is not going to want to move on legislation unless they're forced. And the only way to really force them is by having constituents coming out and saying, look, we want you to do this. We want you to do that. We don't want you to do all these investigations. We want you to focus on things that are going to help the American people. And so this is something that we're going to continue to follow and see where it goes. And so at this point, hopefully you guys understand how it works when it comes to the taxes, as well as what stages need to happen in order for this to even get to the House. It has to be approved in the Senate to get to the House. Hopefully you guys understand that. However, if you do have further questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.